All right. So folks, I do appreciate you supporting Hugh in this program because those of us in extension and research, we're here to serve you. And I know that may sound kind of silly these days, but that's our purpose is to try to get you anything at all that makes your business better. So I've been doing this for a long, long time. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to try to impress upon you if you're like any of all the people that I work with, corn, beans, tomatoes, potatoes, and I can melons. I could go through the list of all these folks, but everybody wants high tech stuff, and it's the equipment, it's the computers, it's this, that, and the other. When in fact, sometimes we forget it's the basic stuff that's actually going to make us efficient and effective, which I think that's what Hugh was trying to get through this talk. So what I'm going to do, and what my hope is, we're going to cover these four things. Um, and I'm going to give you the best of the best. These are things that I've learned from being in the field, working with you folks over the years. And my goal is for you to pick up one or two key points that can make your operation better, and or folks, something to think about. If I can just get you to think about a couple of these things, then maybe I can make it more efficient. So I wanted to start with storage, and storage is something that we've sort of blown off over many, many years now, and I want to bring it back up. And as you know, we have on all of our products, I'm sure it's there as well, that we have expiration dates on milk, cans. We got expiration days on everything, it seems like. And then we have something called shelf life. So this milk expired, well, it'd be pretty old now. This milk expired in November the 26th. That's when the manufacturer guarantees that that product is going to taste good. And then you can usually get 4 to 7 days later of shelf life. So what I want to do is to tell you that if I was to ask you, does the age of the product matter in terms of it being the most efficacious? And the answer is absolutely. Now, with some exceptions, we don't have expiration dates on our products. And if you looked at the warranty, there is nothing on the warranty that offers anything about dates. So what I'm going to use is what the manufacturers use to have to guarantee to the regulatory people, and that they have to make sure that the formulation remains stable for 3 years. Now, that to me, that 3 years becomes basically the expiration date. That's when they're going to guarantee that basically that product is going to hold up. And that 3 years is from the manufacturer really distributed to you. That's the 3 years. Now, it could have a longer shelf life, but we have no way of knowing that without asking questions. So what I want to do is to go back, and this is more difficult this last couple of years, is I don't want to buy just pallets and pallets and pallets of stuff just to save money, so that at the end it won't be as efficacious. So I'd like to see you not buy more than a 2 year supply, to make sure that you can get that used within a reasonable period of time. Now, if you're like any of our folks, you typically are not going to read this part of the label. It's storage and disposal, and it may ask you to do some things in terms of storage. The manufacturers can only do so much, and at times they're going to require us to do something to keep that product working. So for instance, here are some I just cherry picked off some labels. Store at temperatures above 32. So this one freezes. What I really like about this first bullet, which gives me some confidence, is this does not alter this product when you thaw it out. I really like that because it's telling me it's going to remain stable. So let's look at the second bullet. You can see here storage below 20 results in basically the stuff crystallizing. What it doesn't tell me is what the other one told me, which is if I thaw it back out, will it be effective? So I'm going to have to ask questions on that one. But in essence, you'll see there, like it is here, it's primarily cold temperatures that impacts the, let's just say, longevity, efficacy of these products. And they're different. You have some that third bullet is 40, the last bullet is 10. One of the easiest things to do to make sure that you use it within the 3 years so that you can feel comfortable is to put a purchase when you actually year that you got the product. It's your visual clue when you walk in the barn, your storage shed, or whatever you've got, your chemicals. One of the easiest things to make sure that we stay within that 2 or 3 year limit. And again, we could say 3 year limit for an expiration would be to actually do what they're doing here, which is to label their different products with the year that it was purchased. So I now know that these were purchased in 2020. And so that I know that I've got a couple of years that I really want to make sure that I get this put in. Here is another product that was purchased in 2019. And this tells me then that this product now has got what? The 2019 season, probably the 2020 season. I am starting to get close on what would be considered the expiration date. Now, the shelf life, again, may be a lot longer than that, but we don't know as the user. So in this particular case, so this now is whatever, a year old, we when we did this, you start realizing if I have those products still in storage, that now I have an issue about the age of them. And now I'm less confident that these products are going to work. The product that I have in my hand, I think is $1,500, one of the fungicides. I'm going to assume, Hugh, that these blueberry folks, they use a lot of fungicides. Is that true? And yeah, so they all know how expensive this stuff is. And I need to maximize it, specifically if it's weakened a little bit and they're not putting them on these diseases, we get resistance and the list goes on and on. You should do what the grocery store does. These are very simple things. You rotate the old to the front and the new to the back. What's nice, again, we have dates. So let's assume that I had 2019 and I wanted to order more of the 2020, just like we do in the grocery store. Then we would take all of the 2019s, we would bring that to the front, and then I would take my 2020 materials and put them in the back. So that means the old comes to the front and the new comes to the back to help preserve those 2 or 3 years that are on the expiration date. Okay, so you think about going to the store. It's kind of funny. Where do you, Haley, where do you reach for your milk at?
I look for the date the furthest away.
But you know where that's at. It's in the back.
Yeah.
So I think some of these guys are starting to, these stores are fooling us, because I think now some of the instead of putting them in the back, they're putting them in the front because they're wanting you to take the oldest that's been on the shelf. But it's what everybody does to guarantee basically freshness of the products. And our chemistries are no different than bread and milk. We need to use them up. This is a big one, folks, and I don't understand. I do understand. All of you, if I were to ask you, have you bought any new products lately? And you'll say, yeah, got a new insecticide, fungicide, herbicide. Let me see, language for this meeting. It's asking me, is that a participant has enabled translation?
I just envoy as English. I don't know who is requesting that. Just send me a quick note on that and I will help you.
All right, I got it. So what happens here is, for instance, one of the ones was up north in Michigan, and they were all excited about a new product. And this new product that they had, the reason they liked it, it would basically, after less than an hour, it would have already penetrated into the weeds. And they loved that because it took out the weather and the environment. They didn't have to worry as much about things being washed off. Well, so everybody's buying it. Well, when we look at this, there's a problem. this stuff is so expensive. The old stuff still works. You just buying some new trait, and why you don't use them up instead of just letting them sit there, I
So
don't know.
another technique that we just have to incorporate is, let's say, for instance, that I decided to switch to this product. Let's assume these were equivalent products, but I had a better price break on this one, or the research show it has less resistance, or whatever the case may be. So what happens here is we buy these new products, and because that's why we bought them, because for some reason they offer us something, and then we leave behind the old products. And then every year that this stays on the shelves, then we're losing part of that 3 years. And so the ideal here is, if I decide to go to this product in lieu of this, then what I want to do is in the springtime, put this into the system, use up, still a good product, it's worked for us forever, is to use up the product before it just sits on the shelves just waiting to be used.
Okay, hopefully that makes sense. You're throwing away, we're not getting our money's worth out of it. So those are just a couple of the highlights from storage. Now, measuring is an interesting one. And Hugh and I talked, and I realized that some of you there in Canada use metrics, others are using English system and all that. So what I found out, people like me who only use our system, I can't do metric. But when I've been in Canada a couple of times, those of you that use metric can actually convert over back and forth pretty quickly. So here is I'm going to ask you, I won't get an answer. Is there a difference between a fluid ounce and a dry ounce? If I have any employees and I'm measuring in these units, then you better make sure that you or your employees know that there is a major difference in these. And I'll just show you the numbers: 128 liquid ounces in a gallon, 16 ounces in a pound, in 1 pound. The reason that this is important, it's different numbers in different gallons and pounds, right? They're totally different units. And I'm going to show you this here. I measured 3 ounces of salt by volume, a liquid measuring cup, and then I weighed out 3 ounces of salt by weight. And you can see here the difference in the same bottle. Folks, this is probably one of the more critical things that people have forgotten, that they're different units. So here are three cups that are used with Roundup. These fit on the lid. Some of you have seen those. Green one is fluid, white and yellow are dry. So if you think about it, I put in 4.5 ounces I need 4.5 ounces in the green, and I've got my cups all mixed up, or I don't know there's a difference, and I actually put it into the white. Hugh, can you tell what I did when I went from 4.5 on the green, but I measured in the white?
It's more in a white plastic.
Yeah, a whole lot more. Now, it's going to kill everything that you want to kill, plus more. It'll be very effective. But at 30 and 40 bucks an ounce for a lot of these products, you just think about the money you just spent for nothing. Because folks, dead is dead. I can't kill you any more than you're dead. And so that's a waste. But Hugh, if I didn't know it, and you won't know this because you don't see anything bad. All you see is good. But what happens if I take that white cup, Hugh, and I needed 4.5 ounces of that dry Roundup, and I put it into the green cup?
You don't have enough to kill.
And this is what I've seen going out on problem. Now I always ask, and the complaint is, this stuff is not worth a crap. This stuff doesn't work. This blah, 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 whatever. Folks, it's costing us in the States $500 million to bring you a new active ingredient. It's taken me over 10 years now to get to all that work. These companies are not going to give us garbage, because people like me are going to tell other people, don't buy from this company. So in this case, when you apply too little, now we start looking at resistance, yields, lack of control, and in especially the fresh products, fresh market products, tomatoes, melons, blueberries, apples, tomatoes, I can't have all these blemishes. At least our customers won't buy them. So they end up going into ketchup and juice and things that are not worthless, but not quite the same as the fresh market. Know that there is a difference. So if you looked at this picture, this comes from, I was spraying some apples and I was working with the guy, and this is how he was measuring it. I would hope that you would see you should not measure dry products in a liquid measuring cup. You're measuring dry ounces and liquid ounces, and I just told you that they're not the same. So you need to be able, you got to break this right here. And I can tell you, there's a bunch of people online that are doing this, and I just want you to reconsider what you're doing. So, Caitlin, what weighs more, a pound of feathers or a pound of lead?
Lead.
Yeah, I hear that all the time. How about yourself? What would you answer?
Oh, the same. A
As
pound.
soon as I said it, a pound is a pound.
That's correct. That's correct. A pound is a pound, and a farmer got me on this one, and I've used it ever since, because I answer just like you. I'm thinking lead heavy, but a pound's a pound. But what do you know, Caitlin, about the volume?
The lead is going to be a smaller volume than the
Correct.
feathers.
Now, it does relate to what we're talking about, so I'm going to use some other substances that you can see. I took coffee creamer, grit, sugar, and 2 salts, and I weighed them, and at 3 ounces. So these are actually weighed. I put them in the same bottle, and you can see the huge difference in how much is in each bottle. Now, so if I was marking 3 ounces on that coffee creamer, you could see where I would set my mark at 3 ounces and the salt on the right. And I'm bringing it up because these tubes that we all use, these tubes have got numbers on it, and those numbers only reflect the weight of that product. You can't interchange the tubes. Yeah, so that's the key, that these tubes are specific. Now, this is one I love, and it's if I was to ask one of you out there, what do you want, convenience or accuracy? Most of you are going to give me what you think I want to hear, and that's accuracy. And that's nonsense. You want both is what you want. But there's a word or there. Or means one or the other. So when you're using these tubes, what's important here is to convenience or accuracy. So let me show you what that means. Can you see what it says, accuracy? And I don't think my little thing here is working, but maybe I can point it out in the middle. Can you see plus or minus 7.5%?
It's working. Your mouse is working.
Yeah. Is the cursor moving too, Hugh?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, good.
Yeah.
So first of all, this tube that you're measuring is plus or minus 7.5. Folks, that's 15%. That's not, it could be 7.5 up, 7.5 down. And what they're doing here is they're measuring the dry product by volume, because you and I want to pour it in like a cup and then use that. This one is plus or minus 10%, which is 20%. By the way, the majority of them are, at least the best you're going to get is 7.5%. 10%, here's one in the middle, 15% plus or minus. And I love this one, plus or minus 20%. Man, I can eyeball this better than trying to measure it out. And so what they're doing is, I want you to read, because we're going to come to that. They all tell you where a high degree of accuracy is needed, a scale should be used. And I would argue in any of the areas that we're in, that the application is so expensive to make and lack of control costs us so much money. I think we need accuracy to be able to control the problems that we're dealing with. And so what I do is, here's an example of a scale. I can actually measure 1 ounce in, put it in a tube, and you can see it didn't come up to 1 ounce. The next time I measure it, it could be between 1 and 1.25. Another time it may be 1 ounce. And it has to do with how big the granules are small. So for instance, a fertilizer, if you think of a home fertilizer bag, you get to the bottom, you got a lot of beat up fines and those things. So these, and you're saying, well, Fred, that ain't very much. Oh, it is. On these dry ounce products that are going out in 1 ounce per acre, a 1/2 ounce per acre, folks, this is major deals. So what I would love to see you do is not use those tubes. We have a lot of farmers, a lot of our ag retailers actually weigh things out now. We have golf courses and other people, but as farmers, I would love to see you buy a scale. These scales don't cost but $75 at most. And I can almost guarantee you, if you've got any size to your farm, actually, or any farm, because of what you're growing, this scale will pay itself after 1 application. Because what I want to do is always to be accurate when I'm mixing up my chemistries. I don't have to worry about the plus or minus whatever. I am accurate here. Now, it's these hidden things that kill us. So, Caitlin, if you look, can you tell on the left that this is some brush control products, Oust XP and Oust XP. You notice those two containers have the same, the same product,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
But do you have any idea why they would change colors?
Different formulation?
Say it again.
Is it a different formulation?
Yes, it's the same formulation, kind of, but maybe something's changed, whatever they're hooking the actives and inerts to. And so you look at that, and this was something that was new to me. Look on the other one. And what I'm doing there is showing you what 1 ounce looks like. I put some stuff in it, but you can see that they've changed it XP darkened on the right-hand side, and they've got that darker border on it. What they're telling you is that these things do change. One of my brush control guys that no longer with us, but he was up at Virginia Tech. He was telling me that little difference there between on the Escort, same product, on the right hand side, that's the difference between good and poor control. If that little bit of difference, if we mismeasured. So the bottom line here is when you are done with these, throw them away. New ones come with the products. My favorite one, Lay said, oh, no, you can't throw these away. I said, why not? They make great drink cups. So I said, you gotta be kidding me. You're not drinking out of these things. And so I went and got one of those bigger ones. Man, it fits perfect in your truck. It fits right in there. But I wish I could find those pictures. I've lost them somewhere in my files. Now, because you and I work in different systems, some of you metrics, I'm in the English system. And so I picked this one up. Most of our things that we buy, equipment wise, will often comes in all kinds of units because the manufacturer is trying to sell one product across multiple measuring, I don't know what you call it, different countries that use different systems. So a friend of mine, I do a lot of brush control work, and one of my friends said I didn't get good control. And what I want you to see here, I have 2 3-gallon marks on this backpack sprayer. So what he did was he used the 3 gallons right here, because folks, it's impossible to have 2 3-gallon marks, right? You can't have 2 3-gallon marks. And at least that's what I thought until I realized come on, Fred, he mixed up the product to the 3-gallon, and he used the English label that uses the ounces and gallons and quarts. What's the problem? When you look at this piece of equipment, it could be a sprayer, it could be anything. Can you see the difference? He was using imperial gallon mark. If you kind of look over here to the left, I can find it. Look to the left, there is the English, there is the US mark. So again, if you had it in your area, you'd probably have metric. I hate this, but I understand if I was a company, I don't want multiple products that I can just based on this. So what he did was he used the wrong 3 gallons, diluted his product, and did not kill the brush. And brush is to start with this stuff. So make sure you just know what you're using. Hidden small things that impact how well things work. And so, Caitlin, do you have any idea what would most blueberry people? I don't know if that's your area. Who's the group you work with?
Field crops, so corn, soybean, cereals.
So let's say corn.
Yep.
What would be? Do you have an idea of tank sizes that you guys would be using?
Oh, it'd be a range.
1,200, 1,800.
Yeah,
1,000.
1,200. Yeah.
Yep. How do we know that? How do we know that's in it?
That's what they tell us.
That's correct.
Label.
Folks, I don't know why we don't believe most things, but we believe these things. And so here is the first one. These are real numbers. I didn't make this up. And this comes into play. So let's say, just for the sake of argument, Caitlin, I had 1,000-gallon tank. And I'm just going to make the math easy. I know we don't do that. So if I wanted to put out 10 gallons per acre, I would do what? Roughly 100 acres.
Yeah.
And if I wanted 2 ounces of product per acre, if I can remember these numbers, I would need what? 200 ounces of product?
Yeah.
Little over what? Yeah, a little over a gallon. But that's how I mixed it. I mixed it based on that number. But in this example, I only had 950 gallons. So I'm putting out 10 gallons per acre. So what I did was I dropped 100 acres of chemical on 95 acres. So I spent a lot of money for nothing. It just went down the drain because, again, dead is dead. You can't kill something deader. The other one, which is just as bad, that was wasted money. It was marked at 750. And again, let's just say 10 gallons. To do 70, I mixed up chemical for 75. In fact, there was about 87 acres worth there. So when I mixed up over 75 and I started spraying, I'm going to what? I could go a lot further. Is that right? I have enough for 75, but I actually mixed enough to go on. I basically what I did was I diluted it. I underdosed it. Folks, I would not trust any of these tanks. I work with tanks. I understand the tanks, but these are manufactured products. What I'd love to see you do is go to your ag retailer. If you got a flow meter, use it. If you don't have a flow meter, ask your ag retailer to do something for you. I would do that with my backpacks. I would do that with anything to make sure that the amount of water that they're claiming is actually there and it's not over or under, because that's going to screw us up pretty good. And you would think that this would be in the year 2023. In order, Hugh, for these tanks to be marked evenly spaced, like you're seeing here, what do the sides have to look like?
It'd have to be square.
They have
It'd
to be
even. Yeah.
Yeah, to make it evenly spaced, okay? So when you look at these elliptical tanks, which we have a lot, as you go from the bottom to the middle has got more space, more water. Caitlin, those lines should go down, right?
Yeah, they should be different.
They should be different. So it's larger on the bottom, smaller in the middle, and larger on top. It's just the opposite. Folks, a lot of you have got tanks that are equally spaced. It can't be. It can't be equal. I asked one manufacturer, why are you doing this? They said it looks better. I said, geez, almighty. I don't think most of us care much about how it looks. I just want accurate. So if you see that your lines on an elliptical tank are evenly spaced, then you should not be using those lines for nothing because it's mismarked. All right. This has been a big one over the years. It's on adjuvants. And these are things that we're going to add to water. And I think if I ask most of you what kind of drops you would like to see, it would be those drops probably on the left, and we call that coverage, but it all depends on what we're doing. But I want you to notice on the right-hand side, every one of those drops are perfectly round, whether they're big drops, little drops, medium drops. So let's look at that real quickly. Notice the sprays coming in, they're all round. You got millions and millions of these drops. Notice that when they hit and they splattered, they reformed. In fact, it'll come back here in just a second. I think I've got it on a rewind. So you'll see that all the drops are always perfectly round. That's physics. You can't, that is what water does. It loves itself and it binds. See how it's splattered in the middle? And you can see them when they come back out of it, they reform into circles. Now, when you add, let's just say a herbicide, that herbicide needs, for many things, including fungicides, I need the stuff to spread like you see in the upper left-hand corner. Your drops want to be round. For many things, we'd like a round drop. We'd like a flat drop. That's impossible for water. Now, when I add a surfactant, these surfactants make water wetter. So you can see what this one's doing. It's spreading it out. And that's, for many products, that's what we want. I guess, Caitlin, I don't know if your farmers are like mine, if folks online, they'd rather not spend money if they can. I understand that.
Absolutely.
Now, I'm also going to say that the manufacturers of the major manufacturers of pesticides make no money off the surfactants. That comes from the ag retailers and the distributors. So, Caitlin, if a manufacturer tells you to add a surfactant to help that product spread, they're adding the cost of their product plus the cost of a surfactant. They've increased the cost, which is not a good thing when we're working with farmers and they're making decisions on pennies per acre, right? So when you see this on a label, or you're asked by your ag retailer who may be making those applications, if the label says a surfactant, put it in or switch to another product. I need that surfactant to make things work better. Now, this is a no surfactant. Your herbicides have got to get to the leaf. Then they have to penetrate. So what you're seeing here is a drop of water with the chemistry in it, and it's evaporating. It's not going anywhere. Those are just wax. It's not doing anything. But when I add the surfactant, can you see what happens? It reduces that tension, which is what it's supposed to. And now I moved it on the surface. Hugh, oil and water don't mix, do it?
No.
Nope, never did, never will. And so, very simple, as an entomologist that does all kind of stuff, but as an entomologist, you know, I keep things pretty simple. The surface of a leaf is basically wax. Now, you know, you can spend decades talking about it, but for me, it's a wax. And so my water drop is going to have a difficult time on some surfaces getting in. And if it does not get in, or my fungicide that's a systemic can't get in, then I'm not getting the levels of a chemical I expect. So what I'm going to show you here, what an oil does. An oil is applied to the surface. It's going to break the oil. In fact, all of you know that, folks, that when you got grease and stuff on your hands, you ain't just putting water on it because the water comes off. You're going to get some other oil or soap to break that apart. So you have a piece of yellow paper here, and what's what we use drift. You can measure drift, you put them out, And if water hits it, it turns blue. That's how we can measure how far there's drift off our sprays, all right? And then what I have on it is a piece of wax paper. So what you see is water sitting on wax paper above that yellow card. So what I'm going to do is to add a crop oil. Methylated seed oil makes no difference. And what I'm going to do is just speed that up so you can see that there it is. Can you see that blue? I'm going to see if I can stop it right there. There's that blue right there on the right-hand side. And what it's telling you is that oil has penetrated that wax and touched that yellow paper and turned it blue. When these manufacturers tell you to add a crop oil, and sometimes they're specific, folks, you got to add it because that product, for whatever reason, needs help to be able to penetrate that leaf tissue.
Taking
Simple
a look
things.
at the water, you notice water quality. I mean, as we look at these, which of those is hard?
So what we're going to do now is, again, going back to this label, the bottle that Norm is right there where his hand is hard water. Calcium, magnesium. On the left is not hard water. And what he's going to do, we're going to add basically glyphosate to it, and you're going to see what's going to happen.
This isn't
Hard water
glyphosate, but
on
it
your
mimics
right.
glyphosate in a hard water environment. And we'll put a little bit in here. We'll put the
Roundup,
same amount relative in here.
Roundup should dissolve, which means it should
Those
be
two
clear.
spray solutions solubilize that material. You'll be able to discover pretty quickly
Oh,
which
if I
of
can get
these.
it. There we go. So look at that bottle on the right. How come it's not clear? Because I want it to be clear. Something's wrong. And so what's happened here is, in a real nutshell, is the calcium and the magnesium and the iron will round up. Then it's ineffective. What you've done is putting Roundup into hard water, basically dilutes your tank. Yeah, you put in the right amount, but it's tied up like this and it can't penetrate.
What the industry calls a water conditioner. This material is going to affect the pH, and it's going to take the water hardness, which remains at that same level, but it's going to take it out of the equation. It's going to tie up the calcium, and it's going to allow that glyphosate molecule to come completely back into solution and be available for weed control. A quart
So
per
we're
100.
gonna fix the hardness,
You're watching the bottom of that.
and look what
Immediately,
happens.
that reaction that we saw with the calcium and the glyphosate, that reaction is now being displaced by a new reaction, and that will.
Can you see what happened to the bottle? It's starting to clear up. So I'm adding something to fix up hardness. Now, I don't know if how hard your water is. I should have checked and I didn't. Our water here is extremely hard. Do you know if your water there has got a lot of calcium, magnesium in it? Hugh or Caitlin, is that something you got?
In some areas, yeah, it
Yes.
does. Yeah.
So you put Roundup into those areas and you don't fix it, I'm going to assume ammonium sulfate is what most people use of some form or the other.
What the industry calls.
And so what's happening here, you saw it, it clouded, then it cleared up. So when you put calcium and high levels, you put that into hard water, the calcium is 2+, it's got 2 magnets on it, pluses. And what it wants is 2 minuses. Opposites attract, if you remember that. So it goes in the water and it grabs glyphosate, 2 of them. And once it's bound, it's garbage. So when you add ammonium sulfate on the bottom left, the 2 minuses, when you look at your big picture on the right, the 2 minuses are going to go in there and they're going to hook up with the magnesium and calcium. they're going to knock Roundup off of the calcium and magnesium. And then what you're left with is the glyphosate hooked up with ammonium ion. Now, what I'm saying is, it's the magnesium as calcium is still there. You just reformulated. If you are using Roundup in a handful of products and you are not fixing your hard water, you are not getting the level of efficacy that you need. All right. So let's just quickly look at some compatibility, some ideas. Well, we'll stop about 5 till. Is that time for questions, or what you think?
You can finish your slides and we can see how much time we left there, Fred.
All right. So in order for your products to work, there's actives that kill and the inerts that carry. The inerts are more, to me, are more important than the actives. And so you see something like that when they're separated, the actives and the inerts need to be
So
mixed
this one,
together.
we just saw what we would consider a thinner product. So let's look now at a
So what I want to show you, if I
part of
can
its
get to it
component.
here. Yeah.
So let's start the agitation to see how actives, how it so
So what the manufacturers have to do, in the manufacturers and your ag retailers and distributors, when this stuff it settles. And when it settles, I don't have the right combination of actives and inerts. And that is what they're trying to do here. And they'll do this a couple of times. And they'll put them in mini bulks and try to get those done up. And it even starts with the small stuff. And you can see here, it says shake well. I used to blow that off thinking, yeah, whatever. But as it turns out, there was a reason for that, because you can see the separation of inerts and active. And this is high tech, folks. You just shake it where you don't see that. If, maybe some of you could be using things like that, you just get it and you make sure that it's in fact agitated. Always start with 50% or more water. The less water you have, the more apt you're going to get cottage cheese. So let me show you what we're talking about here. Water can only hold so much. Water can only hold so much. Oh, what's wrong with it here? Well, it's not wanting to work for whatever reason. Let's try it again. There we go. So if I put sugar in the water, and I ask all of you that, it should dissolve, right? And it does. That little thing on the bottom is just a magnetic thing that stirs it, and you can see that the liquid is actually the sugar is melting or dissolving in it. Now look what happens when I put a lot of sugar in it. And I could stir this between now and next January, and the stuff is just going to sit there. There's no more room in the water. Water can only hold so much, which is why we like to use more water, to give us more water to be able to mix our products in. If you're using fertilizer, there's a reason why it's 28 and 32% and not more. I can't put any more in it. When you use fertilizer, there is no more room to mix anything, basically, or it's very difficult. So if I was trying to mix in another product in here, let's say a solid, a granule, a powder, and I tried mixing it in this fertilizer, it's going to be extremely hard because there's not enough water. So generally what we do with fertilizer is try to mix the dry stuff in a bucket, get it pre-mixed, and then pour it in. Hopefully you would see this is not very enough agitation. All of these products need to have good agitation going. I can't put a number to it, but I know good agitation when I see it. Good agitation when I see it. bad agitation when I see it on either end. Folks, we're not frying chicken or making donuts. This high agitation actually breaks apart a lot of the chemistries that we use. So what we'd like to see you have is medium agitation. And I think we'll do this one right here. Hugh, and let's see, yeah, we're still right there.
Yeah.
If I put sugar into 40-degree water in 80-degree water, what would you expect to happen? And so as you're watching this work its way around, just see, you can see what's taking place here.
The ADY is to go faster than.
Well, sure, yes. This is extremely important when you're mixing. And I don't know, Hugh or Caitlin, we have a lot of, we store a lot of water outside to keep our sprayers moving. So in the fall, or in the spring, when it's relatively cold and we're starting to make our applications, that tank, the water becomes the same temperature as the outside. So if you're using this colder water, it's just going to take you longer to beat this in to get it into suspension. You know, I don't know. This looks like cow guts, but the good news is that it's still working, right? It's still coming out. I've got a lot of them that it just gets gummed up and doesn't come out. And so this, again, it's why putting in products in a certain order is pretty helpful. And we got a publication. This is just my reminder. Typically, I want the dry products to go in first. It needs clean water. It's going to take a while to agitate. And then the oils, the adjuvants, the oily products are going to come in toward the end, because if I put those in first, it's oily water. I put the powders in, or dry material, the oil coats the dry, and then the water can't get to it. And that's how we get this mess. And then lastly, we typically use the micronutrients, zinc, boron, which is getting to be really popular here, manganese, copper, and the rest of those stuff. We typically put those in because they're very reactive and they screw up the water. All right. So with that, let's just stop here, folks. Let me quit sharing here. So for me here, it's what I tried to point out are very simple things that are obvious, but they're not obvious until somebody usually tells you, which is how I learned all of this. So I hope that there is 1 or 2 points that you found that could help you, at least in your thinking or in your operation. That's always the goal. You can email me at Fred Whitford. You saw it on there at Purdue if you have more questions, or you would rather not. But if somebody's got a question here, hopefully I'm here more than just for that's pretty bad. I'm here for a point, 1 point. That's pretty good, Hugh. You really set me up good. 1 point.
Well, no, but now feel free to come back next year, or we'd like to have you back to talk to a specific group.
You can have me anytime. You ought to have me in person.
Okay. I'm actually able to allow people to talk. So anybody want to speak, or just let me know or raise your hand. I can, let you talk, or you just type a question into a chat or Q&A. Those are very good tips there, Fred. We always forget those basic stuff we need to be aware of to make a successful application in the farm. So I hope.
And Hugh, I will tell you, all of these topics, if there's a topic that interested you, you send me an email and I'll send you a publication at no cost. We've got publications on every one of those topics. I should have showed them at the end. I did, but I just moved on. So if somebody is interested in water pH and testing, or adjuvants or compatibility, I've got publication, mixing, storage. We got pretty detailed publications on them.
Well, you offer that. I don't think our growers or we are not shy, so we definitely contact you. We got a question in the chat, in the Q&A here, Fred. Scott is wondering if there have ever been any studies done comparing the effect of storage time on product efficacy.
No, so that would, if I'm understanding Scott, Scott, that is, I take a product, the same product, and it's brand new, 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, 4, 5, 6 years, and I do those studies on products that are old. And the answer, as far as I know, I've never seen that done, which is why I use the 3 years that the manufacturers guarantee me, because some products will break down really quickly. And then other products will last a lot longer, but the lasting has to do with efficacy. I want high efficacy, not that the product is 50% good. I want it to be that 92%. And as time goes on, that efficacy will drop on most products. So, but to answer Scott's question, the answer is, as far as I know, I've never seen that.
Okay. Please just keep asking questions. Somebody's asking Fred's email. I'm going to find his email and type it in the chat. Just 1
Yeah,
second.
it's F Whitford, F as in Fred, Whitford, WHITFORD, at purdue.edu.
Okay, I got it here. So
Okay.
his email is in the chat now. If anybody want to contact Fred about any question that you have.
We've got another question here. Is hard water an issue for pretty much all chemicals or just glyphosate?
It is a handful of products. And so glyphosate is the poster child for that. It's on the label. It tells you that. And for me, hard water, in case somebody asks, is 200 parts per million. Next time we could do that. I use basically swimming pool test kits. I can quickly just take this one here. I'll just show you here. I've got this little strip. I'm going to put it into the water. That's it. I'm going to take it off. And the hardness on this one is on the bottom. And all I'm doing is lining up the purple on the bottom here. It's litmus paper. This water that we're using, that I took out of our bathroom, is between 400 and 800 parts hard. This is sorry water to be spraying with. So I would love to see you guys do this, because we found that hard water affects a lot more the efficacy. You should just try a tank, fixing the hard water with some of your chemical, and leave one tank without it, go into the same fields, and then see, do you see a difference? I think, Lou, you're going to be talking about in the future about doing your own on-farm. I think I saw testing. This is a perfect example to test against your weeds. Will hard water, even if the label doesn't ask for it, to fix your water? This is a good example, but Roundup is the poster child for hard water. Always has been.
Yeah, absolutely.
This is by the way, it's about 10 or 12 bucks.
Perfect.
This is easy, and it gives me pH as well. It gives me the answer in what, 30 seconds?
Fred, our next question is about the water tank. So any recommended methods for verifying water tank volumes for older sprayers?
Yeah, so the easiest thing to do, and God, I should have remembered, water weighs 8.345. You know, you folks have to look it up. It's 8 point, whatever that point is important. 8 point, I think 345, whatever. So if I have, let's say, a 200-gallon sprayer, I could go weigh my sprayer at the scale. Ag retail, they all got, well, I assume they have scales there.
Yep.
They have scales. I would weigh it empty. Then I would fill up to that 200-gallon mark times 8 point, if it's 345. I'd go back over that scale, and then that's what it should be, the empty weight plus the 200 gallons of water. And what's nice about water, if you're very off by very much, it will show high or low. It's easy to do on the scales like that. Of course, the other one is to buy a flow meter and don't even use those marks. But either way works.
Great. Our next question is about chlorinated water. Do you have any efficacy issues using chlorinated water?
I have asked that question for a long time, and the answer is no. Everywhere I go, it seems counterproductive to me. But I've been to all the different experts that I could come up with, and the answer is on the chlorine has been no so far. Nobody says anything about it, and there's a reaction that takes place, but the answer is no.
Great. You want to go to the Sandra has her hand up, Hugh?
Yeah, we can let Sandra to speak. Sandra, you can unmute yourself and you can talk if you like.
That agitation. I have to get that agitation to be able to re-suspend it. So it's answering the question a little bit different than what was asked, but it's more about resuspending the products so that I don't basically spray out lots of product and then lots of water.
Right. So is there any set amount of time that you should use as a guideline, or it's just as long as it's well agitated?
If it's warm water, the stuff's going to go back pretty quickly.
For sure.
If it's cold water, it may take, instead of let's just say 5 minutes, it may, and I'm making this up, it may take 20 minutes. It's a whole lot more in cold water to get things to go back. So early spring, late fall would be what I'd be thinking about there.
For sure.
Okay. Well, since we passed 1 o'clock, but we still have 2 quick questions to answer, I would address these 2 questions and then we'll end the discussion. But if you guys have any questions, just send email to myself or Fred or Karen or somebody else. So the first question, does water pH correlated accurately with hardness, or should you test your water directly for hardness?
Okay, so I am going to tell you I'm on the cheap side. I don't want to send water that I have to wait, because when I'm spraying, I want to know right now, because I'm going to spray. I can't wait a week. I don't want to send the mail, get it back. This is why I love these things. They're close enough. Whether it's 223 or 200 or 300, it's not going to make me any difference. So I love these test kits because I can do it. And you can get them at a fish store, aquarium store. I have pH and hardness. And we didn't talk about pH. Maybe that's something we should talk about next time. But I love this. We've got a publication. Be glad to work with you on it. This is, to me, is perfect to be able to quantify what my well water is. And by the way, you might have multiple wells, and you would be surprised how different they are, even though it's on the same farm. I mean, magnitudes of difference. So we can talk on that more again if you're interested.
Yeah. So last question.
One more.
One more question. Last question. What's your recommended practice for cleaning tank between products?
Okay, that is going to take a whole seminar. We got a publication on that. I've spent 3 years working on that project. So the critical thing is obviously the more water you use. When I put the water into, if I have stuff left in the tank and I run water, I'm not going to count that. I'm going to add my first rinse. I'm going to add my second rinse to really clean up as much as I can. Before I add the tank cleaner, I'm going to pull my screens off because I don't want that crap to be all in the screens. I'm going to pull those off and clean them or replace them with the clean one. Then I'm going to use my tank cleaner. And the purpose of the tank cleaner is to pick up all the little pieces that I have left over. But that's a real quick, probably not much of a discussion, but whoever asked that question, I would love to get your publication. I feel really comfortable now on the clean out. And you want to buy commercial tank cleaners. Quit using what you have at home. The commercial tank cleaners have got high pHs, which breaks my chemistries, and it also has various soaps, and those soaps will go into the hoses and pull this garbage out. A lot of the problems we get, Q, is when we put in things like Roundup. Roundup's a perfect tank cleaner.
Hmm.
And Roundup pulls this other stuff out of the hoses, and then we get crop damage. This is why I like the commercial tank cleaners versus
Mhm.
just straight ammonia that the research shows can't get into the hoses. So
Okay, perfect. Well, just give me a new webinar idea here. So that would be our next topic is how to clean tanks between your products.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much. I don't want to go over time, but thank you so much, Fred, today, for all the good tips you give to our growers. And just remember this webinar is recorded, so we will process the video and post on our YouTube channel so everybody can go watch. You will get a follow-up email from me, including everything you need to know. I don't want to address too much because we are running out of time. So you will get an email from myself, and then we will go from there. Thank you so much for joining us, and thank you, Fred and Karen, for today. A great lunch and then section here.
folks, thanks very much for giving me a chance to visit with you. Hopefully we can do this again.
Yes,
Oh, we
thank you
will
so
see
much.
you in person.
Sounds
Well,
good.
and in person. We'll find some money to get you here, Fred.
All righty. All right.
It's beautiful here in the summer. We're trying to get here in the most beautiful time of the year in the province in the summertime. Yeah.
Mhm.
You just do that. Thanks for having me.
Thank you so
Thanks
much.
so
Thank you.
much.
Have a good day.